If you're tired of these promos, supporters get the podcast early and ad-free. Just go to donate.bogosity.tv for the links to sign up. Welcome to the Bogosity podcast for the week of November 5, 2023, the podcast that sets the AIs free. This is your host, Shane Killian. Let's tenderize the news of the bogus. And we'll start off with the Trump case. Yeah, which one, I hear you cry. This one is the one that's threatening fundamental constitutional protections and the principles of justice. Yeah, but which one? I still hear you cry. I'm talking about the New York civil fraud case where the judge, unilaterally and without any defense, declared Trump to be guilty of fraud and dissolved all of his businesses, the latter of which was only stopped by a stay from the appeals court. We've covered before how this insane, corrupt, power-hungry judge has ignored continuous Supreme Court precedents over the course of a century to gag Trump's basic First Amendment rights to keep him from publicly criticizing the case, especially regarding his law clerk. More on that in the next segment. But this story is more fundamental to the case itself, not just about how Judge Engoron is treating the defense. On a very basic level, the charges themselves threaten the First Amendment. He's being charged under New York's executive law for allegedly overstating his assets. Yes, this is the case that said Mar-a-Lago, which takes in $25 million a year in income, is somehow only worth $18 million. Civil fraud isn't just about making a boo-boo. It requires that the statements in question not only be false, but that the person knew or should have known they were false or acted in reckless disregard for the truth. It also requires a victim with standing who has quantifiable damages. But this executive law is different. Even something as small and vague as a false pretense is enough. This law can punish a mere inaccuracy even without any culpability or concrete harm. Judge Engoron confirmed that. He said that both lack of fraudulent intent and failure to allege loss are not relevant under this statute. And he even sanctioned Trump's lawyers, fining them $7,500 each for questioning these points and calling the suit frivolous. Whether because Judge Engoron is enjoying his moment in the sun, he always mugs for the cameras before kicking them out of the courtroom to keep the proceedings from actually being taped, or if he's just blinded by hatred of Trump and his counsel, or both, he just doesn't seem cognizant of the profound danger this comprises. Remember that merely for inaccurate statements, and he's not letting them argue that they were in fact accurate, and not from any culpability or damages, he tried shutting down Trump's businesses entirely and liquidating all of their assets. That's a level of disproportionate punishment that would stun Victor Hugo. The Supreme Court has found over and over again that the First Amendment protects speech even when it's false. In New York Times v. Sullivan, for example, an advertisement which made accusations about Montgomery, Alabama police, some of which were false, was found to be protected free speech. They ruled, factual error, content defamatory of official reputation, or both, are insufficient to warrant an award of damages for false statements unless actual malice, knowledge that statements are false, or in reckless disregard of the truth is alleged and proved. And this isn't just about commercial speech. Other cases are targeting scientific and political opinion as well. Even perjury isn't about simply saying something false. To convict someone of perjury, the government has to prove that the person believed what he was saying to be false. It isn't merely the false statement, but also intent. There's also strict liability, which is where you don't have culpability. For example, when you act with recklessness or negligence. It's almost never applied to words alone, but conduct has to be attached, and it has to be proven that actual harm has resulted. But this executive law only requires speech, just words, without any bad intent or any damage to anyone else. And again, I'll say that this should have nothing to do with how you feel about Trump. The entire progress of humanity is about the willingness to engage in unpopular speech, especially speech that goes against an authority or an elite. That's true in business, it's true in science, and it's true in politics. If New York and Letitia James had their way, the only speech that would be allowed would be speech that they agreed with, that they approved of, and anyone who went against that could have their businesses destroyed and their entire lives ruined. That is exactly what the First Amendment was made to prevent, which is why this case is so important. Here's hoping Trump and his lawyers make this point all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court holds up the plain language of their own precedent and strikes down New York's executive law. And there would be a good chance. Just this year, the court confirmed that the First Amendment applies to commercial speech, and in the past decade, Gorsuch, Thomas, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Roberts have all authored decisions supporting freedom of speech. So such a case would seem likely to prevail in the current court. Now, it just has to happen. If you're looking for a way to support this channel, but you don't have any spare cash and you can't stand ads, you can do so by generating your own cryptocurrency. Use the links at the bottom of the description to follow the link to Odyssey.com to listen to the podcast and see all of my YouTube videos as well. Just watching videos will produce cryptocurrency for the creator and yourself. And since Odyssey is always monetized and never censored, you'll have no problem seeing all the videos from your favorite creators. You can also use the library credits you create at Odyssey to tip creators and even purchase paid content. Earn library credits through various rewards, including daily view rewards and the number of shares and invites. And you can interact with creators in all sorts of ways, including like and dislike, comment, boost a post by supporting it, repost it, and share to other sites, all while earning crypto for the creator. Easily monetize yourself and your favorite creators using cryptocurrency, without advertising. Use the link below to visit this channel on Odyssey.com and see many of your other favorites there as well. Okay, now let's turn to the other free speech issue I mentioned, the right of the defense to publicly criticize the process and everyone involved, including all of the individual participants, and yes, that includes the court clerk, who in this case seems to have a huge amount of influence over the judge. And remember that pictures have surfaced of her being very friendly with Chuck Schumer. Trump pointing that out on social media got him slapped with a fine by Judge Engoron. A lot's happened during the trial that's outrageous, but this part happened during Eric Trump's testimony when he was being questioned by Andrew Amir of the Attorney General's office about his initial awareness of the AG's investigation. According to Adam Klasfeld, who was reporting on the trial, attorney for the defense, Cliff Robert, objected, saying that they were trying to punish Eric for invoking his Fifth Amendment rights. Amir confirmed that's where he was going, and Robert accused him of sensationalizing the trial, noting that it was at the end of the day where statements are more likely to dominate the news coverage. Defense attorney Chris Keiss also chimed in, saying, quote, "I don't know what else, other than sensationalizing, is the issue, or just harassing the witness." While apparently waiting for Engoron to rule on their objection, Keiss said sarcastically, "I'll wait for you to ask the clerk." And Engoron hit the ceiling, saying things like, "Do not refer to my staff again. She's a civil servant." And then, you knew it was coming, quote, "Sometimes I think there's a bit of misogyny in you referring to my female principal law clerk." That was when Alina Abba stood up. She said that was definitely not the issue, and the clerk's conduct has been completely inappropriate. According to Klasfeld, Engoron was literally pounding the table. He said he needed to protect his clerk. Keiss pointed out, it's not a security issue. He also defended himself from the baseless accusation of misogyny. This is outrageous. The attorneys absolutely have the right to note for the record any improprieties in the courtroom that they observe. And isn't it funny how the judge accuses them of misogyny when he apparently has to white knight for her because she can't handle criticism. When you have a pressure cooker of a bad law, a political prosecution, and a biased, corrupt, and apparently unhinged judge, free speech is the safety valve that lets us escape from this. It has to be protected. And if you think it only needs to be protected from Judge Engeron, just keep listening. If you're on the Wi-Fi in a coffee shop or hotel, anyone on that network can get your traffic. Do you really trust all of those strangers? For that matter, do you really trust your ISP? A VPN can protect you from prying eyes, disguise your location, and even foil government censors. It's essential in this day and age, so go to vpn.bogosity.tv and you'll be taken to BoxPN. Starting at just $2.99 a month, you can get unlimited high-speed connections to VPN servers all over the world, and they don't log connections, so your privacy is assured. Traveling abroad, just VPN home, and don't worry about what those other governments are doing. Back at home, stop your ISP from traffic shaping and messing with the quality internet access you're paying good money for. You can connect from multiple machines at once, including your smartphone or tablet, and it supports all the secure standards, including OpenVPN and SSTP. Bypass censors and surveillance with your own secure VPN connection. Go to vpn.bogosity.tv. Okay, I need a break from U.S. corruption, so let's go take a look at Russian corruption. They have banned 167 VPNs. Honestly, I don't know if this one's bad or if they're doing everyone a favor. Nah, it's bad. I'm tempted to say they're doing people a favor because the fewer VPN servers there are in Russia, the safer we all are. Because Russia will spy on them and seize them every chance they get. That was what prompted BoxPN, Private Internet Access, and several others to shut down their Russian servers 7 years ago. The problem is, Russians need VPN service too, and probably more than most. But they shouldn't be using VPN services in Russia either, because that would defeat the purpose. They need to be able to connect to Europe or Singapore or wherever, and hide what they're doing from the tyrants in power. The question for governments wanting to stop them from doing so has always been, how do you do that? In addition to blocking 167 VPN services and over 200 email services, they're also instigating protocol-level blocking of OpenVPN, IkeV2, and WireGuard. And then there's the misinformation campaign, where they claim that using a VPN for security is worse than not using a VPN. They say that using a VPN can result in the theft of your passport details, names, addresses, and date of birth. They don't say how, probably because there's no way, but it's telling that this summer, Putin signed into law requirements that internet platforms and social networks should verify users' identities, including passport data. Gee, sound familiar? Only difference is here it's protect the children from porn, and there it's protect people from extremists on Instagram. But this is just emphasizing the importance of hiding the fact that you're even connecting to a VPN to begin with. I mean, did you think they weren't going to abuse those IP block lists U.S. officials were insisting that Netflix and other services are required to use? Protocol-level blocking can only work if the protocol is exposed. This is where making HTTPS connections and connecting the VPN through those can be a solution. This is also why it would have been better to keep domain fronting. That was where Signal and other services were just using the domain names of Google, Cloudflare, and other CDNs and only specifying the actual domain name once a secure connection is made. It works great. Unfortunately, as we covered back in May of 2018, Amazon, Google, and others engaged in outright lies to stop Signal from using this method to get around blocks in Iran and other countries. It's all a part of the overall slide backward into primitive oppression and autocracy. The internet has the capability to be anonymous and free, as was initially promised. These barriers are artificial and must be dismantled. If this won't encourage people to do it, what will? Do you have children, or nieces or nephews? Are you homeschooling, or just want to counter some of the socialist indoctrination most children get in school? If so, go to Bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins, and you'll be taken to a website where you can get some great books for elementary-aged children. The Tuttle Twins books are books about liberty and free market economics that include children's versions of Bastiat's The Law, Leonard Read's I, Pencil, and Hayek's The Road to Serfdom, as well as books about the Federal Reserve and how regulations protect business cronies. They'll learn about the harm caused by eminent domain, or regulations passed in the name of safety, and fundamental concepts of liberty. And as you can see from the sample pages on the website, they're all easy to read and nicely illustrated. They're just $9.99 a piece, or get a special discount as well as free bonuses when you purchase all 5. You can even buy in bulk to donate to schools and local libraries. So get the Tuttle Twins books at Bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins. And now it's time to re-antagonize this week's biggest Bogon emitter. And this week it goes to Judge Sarah B. Wallace, the judge presiding over the Colorado hearing to determine if 6 triggered voters can keep the most popular opposition candidate off the ballot. Yes, this is the one where they're trying to manipulate the 14th Amendment beyond all recognition. Section 3 prohibits anyone who is engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States from holding certain offices. The first thing you notice is President and Vice President are conspicuously absent from the list. And some of you might also find it weird because we don't actually vote for the president. We vote on a slate of electors who then vote for the president. So, yeah, of course it wouldn't count for those offices. And in answer to a question you might have been wondering, no, Donald Trump hasn't been found guilty of insurrection. Hasn't even been charged with it. They've charged him with everything else under the sun, but not insurrection. Longtime listeners might recall a certain host of a certain podcast pointing out that they were calling Jan 6 an insurrection because they wanted to take advantage of all these exceptions in the Constitution. Good to know that some of my predictions pan out at least. So yes, there are numerous problems with this, and so it's understandable that lawyers and even regular users would be rebroadcasting the trial with their own running commentary. And Judge Wallace really went off on one of them. Apparently, Colorado law makes it illegal to record or rebroadcast any portion of a live stream or court proceeding. So anyway, let's rebroadcast a portion of the stream that was recorded.
Your Honor, while we're waiting, there's one issue. We've been informed that somebody is live streaming the court proceedings on the internet without permission to record it and to sort of doing commentary as it goes. They're beyond the scope of who's there. I mean, I don't know how to get in touch with them, but maybe an admonition that they're watching that they can't do that without permission might be appropriate.
And we know that they're not part of the expanded media coverage?
Yes.
Do we know what organization it is?
It appears to be an individual, Your Honor, but there were like 7,000 people watching them. Its turning forth was now 8,600. It's Ashley Epp.
Ashley Depp?
Epp, E-P-P.
Well, so I want to make it clear that there are very specific statutes and rules in place in the state of Colorado for videotaping proceedings, and there's a process. It only applies to actual media outlets, and you need to request and be granted permission to record any proceedings. So to the extent that there's anybody currently recording proceedings, you are in violation of the court's orders, and if you continue to do so, you will be in further violation of the court's.
I don't know who Ashley Epp is, but I have to say beyond any doubt that this judge is an absolute disgrace. This is without question protected First Amendment activity. Epp tweet-exed. Jenna Griswold's attorney asked the judge to admonish me to stop streaming today. I complied. The secretary is a witness in the NAACP et al. Baseless case against Choli, Sean Smith 1776, and me. Is this retribution? Looking forward to our day in court. The truth will come out. And no, I don't know what case she's referring to. Might be interesting to look into it. She also mentioned a very disturbing aspect of it. Quote, "My full name was nowhere in the stream, and the Badlands logo was prominent. Eric Olson lied to the judge. Badlands is a media organization, and my handle is Ash in America. He knew my full name because he is the attorney for the secretary, and she tracks me. She has submitted my social media in court filings before. So the attorney for the secretary lied. Eric Olson said I was streaming as an individual and not as part of a media organization and doxed my full name. I feel violated, and lying to the judge shouldn't be okay. Other media organizations have already reprinted my full name and Eric Olson's lies, including CPR News." Oh, yeah, I guess including us, too. Sorry, Ash. But the cat was already out of the bag. Quote, "Democrats never face accountability, so I guess I just have to suck it up, right? Again." Remember when the Kyle Rittenhouse trial was broadcast? Being able to watch that and having lots of people, including a lot of lawyers, doing running commentary on it as it happened was invaluable to understanding what was going on, how horrible the prosecution were, and how much the news media was lying about it. It was the same thing with Amber Heard, the Ahmaud Arbery murder trial, and a lot of others. Being able to use our free speech to criticize and deliver commentary on public court proceedings is a huge part of the benefit the First Amendment gives to our society to help ensure fairness and expose corruption. Oh, and did you catch the part where Wallace said,
"Actual media outlets"?
That's another First Amendment violation, this time freedom of the press. That clause, in part, means the government cannot say who is the press and who is not. Everyone who acts as a press is the press. By doing this podcast, I am part of the press. By giving her commentary, Ashley Epp is a part of the press. Saying otherwise and making the media in any way an exclusive club completely violates that. I mean, at least Judge Engeron limited his extremist anti-First Amendment corruption to the parties in the case. Is Epps even in Colorado? I know I'm not. So just try to come after me, Wallace. I'm way out of your jurisdiction. Of course, this entire case is out of your jurisdiction, as controversies under the Constitution are federal cases, and you specifically denied the request to move it up to federal court. Unless there's a reason to bar the public, all trials should be public, and if a trial is public, it should be broadcast. Further, the broadcasts of all public trials should be considered public domain, and even if they're not, adding your own commentary is 100% fair use. And good judges shouldn't have anything to fear from light being shined on the proceedings. It's really only the corrupt judges who would have a problem with rebroadcast and with public commentary. Sadly, there seem to be a lot of those around. So all of that makes Judge Sarah Wallace this week's biggest Bogon emitter. I want to tell you about the eyeglasses I've been wearing for years. As people can see on my videos, I have a very strong prescription, which makes glasses more expensive, especially when I need computer glasses, reading glasses, prescription sunglasses, and most expensively, progressive lenses for general everyday wear. To save money while still getting quality glasses, I get them from Firmoo. In fact, I just got a pair of progressives with high-index aspherical lenses and a nice pair of frames my wife loves for just over $100. It would have been $500 to get them through my eye doctor. Not only do they look good, the glasses are durable. I've worn many pairs for several years without problems. All orders come with a 30-day return policy, a 3-month warranty, and one-on-one customer service. Go to Firmoo, that's FIRMOO.Bogosity.tv anytime you need quality glasses at a low price. Once again, that's Firmoo.Bogosity.tv. And now let's micturate this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. And I don't even feel like counting all the ones we've given to Joe Biden. But I have to give one more. He just created Executive Order 14110 titled Safe, Secure, and Trustworthy Development and Use of Artificial Intelligence. Yep, he's gonna try and have the government control AI. Why doesn't he try passing an executive order to control the weather? He'd have about the same luck. The idiocy starts in his very first dependent clause, quote, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America. But you don't have this authority. Nowhere in the Constitution does it give you any power whatsoever to stop people using their own computers to do the wrong kind of math. He wrote, irresponsible use could exacerbate societal harms such as fraud, discrimination, bias, and disinformation, displace and disempower workers, stifle competition, and pose risks to national security. Geez, why don't you just say it's fattening too? Quote, harnessing AI for good and realizing its myriad benefits requires mitigating its substantial risks. This endeavor demands a society-wide effort that includes government, the private sector, academia, and civil society. No, it doesn't. It doesn't need you at all. In fact, all government could do is make any of these problems worse, as it always does. The order calls for a coordinated approach led by the federal government to work with institutions to make sure that, quote, AI systems function as intended, are resilient against misuse or dangerous modifications, are ethically developed and operated in a secure manner, and are compliant with applicable federal laws and policies. In other words, it'll all be in the hands of big corporations like Google, Meta, and Adobe, with smaller developers and open source solutions like Stable Diffusion possibly running askew of their requirements. I mean, are they gonna check each and every pull request to see if it's a dangerous modification? Just more of the big corporate elitism Washington in general and Biden in particular is known for. There are also paragraphs that try and stop AI from taking jobs from workers. And check this part out, quote, from hiring to housing to healthcare, we have seen what happens when AI use deepens discrimination and bias rather than improving quality of life. Artificial intelligence systems deployed irresponsibly have reproduced and intensified existing inequities, caused new types of harmful discrimination, and exacerbated online and physical harms. Or maybe, just maybe, you're the one that's biased and you just don't like what the AI systems are concluding? Seriously, am I the only one who remembers all of the racist bills that Senator Biden sponsored and co-sponsored with his bestie, white supremacist Strom Thurmond? More black people are in prison because of Biden's bills than probably anyone else still alive today. Maybe we should put an AI on fixing that problem. I would go over more of it, but man, this thing is long. Over 20,000 words. That's long enough to be a novella. But yeah, it creates a whole federal bureaucracy over this, as well as requirements that AI developers submit regular reports that look so complicated you need a legal department to comply with it. One more way of eliminating the small fry. There are also a lot of limits on computing power, expressed in integer or floating point operations per second, that could conceivably affect other services such as cloud rendering. And of course, you knew there'd be a big, long section about climate impacts. This is just ridiculous. All it'll mean is that, as with cryptocurrency, the innovation will just have to move to other countries. But you won't stop it. Like with strong encryption, another wonderfully beneficial innovation that Biden hates, the genie's already out of the bottle. So all of that makes Joe Biden this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. Well, that wraps up this The Little Wooden Boy edition of the Bogosity Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go to donate.bogosity.tv for several ways to support and discord.bogosity.tv to join the discussion. Subscribe at Patreon or Subscribestar, and you can listen early and ad-free. Thank you for listening. Until next time, here's a quote from Alexis de Tocqueville. One finds in the human heart a depraved taste for equality, which impels the weak to want to bring the strong down to their level, and which reduces men to preferring equality and servitude to inequality and freedom. The Bogosity podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License.
Bogosity.